Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, me think John Collins a little bit more bothered than he put on.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast and wherever you download your podcast. Make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. Today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. But T, when you think about John Collins and what he's been going through, like I feel like I need to get a Bible verse going on right here. But we're gonna start. We're gonna keep it simple today. But when you think about what John Collins has had to put up with in the last 3 years, with all these trade rumors and basically having to deal with it and answer questions about it. Now he's been. One thing I always have to give him credit for is that he's been willing to answer those questions and be truthful and pretty honest. But watching that game last night, T, I really felt like he just looked like a different dude.
Yeah. It was almost like the frustrations of the last 2.5 seasons just really came out all at once. I literally said, as I'm like zooming in with my binoculars, because media row is up top. So I'm zooming in and I'm like, ooh, JC chose violence on that first dunk. Like violence on top of violence on top of violence, like literally. And then the next dunk, I was like, that one seemed like a dunk full of joy because he seemed like he was saying, I am just so happy to be in the same uniform after 3 p.m. today. And listen, we can all understand that cannot be easy when you come into work every day, like some of us have, wondering if we'll end the day with the same job. So definitely we understand. And hey, look, he should enjoy the rest of this season because this is going to happen again whether they exit play-in, first round, second round, etc. The minute, the hour after they exit the playoffs, the Hawks, that is, that's when those conversations will ratchet up again. It's just the reality of it, because if we look at what the Hawks did overall, and I think we can all agree that we really do like the Sadiq Bey acquisition, although it could shift some things around, definitely for Jalen Johnson, possibly for AJ Griffin, but we still like it in its totality. And hey, Bruno Fernando is not the same guy he was when he was here before. So that's a
grown up a little bit.
Harrison Matthews, okay, I'll figure out who you are. I don't really know a lot of what he brings to the table, but hey, okay, maybe you're just thrown in. That one. Exactly. Maybe you're just kind of thrown in the deal the way I believe TJ Warren was thrown into the deal with Kevin Durant. The end. But my point being that the Hawks did what we expected them to do, which was not move him because they weren't able to move John Collins. And they got a few other pieces to maybe give him an opportunity to contend. But the bottom line is, not only, Jarvis, do I think that the end of this saga, at least as of February of 2023, is a relief for John Collins, but I think just the whole organization, the players on the court, the ones on the sidelines, the ones in the front office, because they're like, now we have exactly 26 games to make moves in this conference. Let that be our focus.
And I'm totally fine with that, to be honest with you, because when you're thinking about essentially blowing it up, so to speak. Now, we talked about yesterday about the guys who aren't going anywhere, and that's DeJounte Murray and Trae Young for a lot of reasons that we don't have to get into. But when you talk about what you're going to do to surround those guys, because obviously we got a chance to talk with Brad Rowland, and kind of hinted at the fact that, hey, you're going to have to make trades. Like that's pretty much how this roster is set, with so many guys on the contract for a long period of time. So, and obviously John Collins is that guy that probably going to have to look into it in the summer to see what that value looks like, because teams going to have more time to think about what's going on. Okay, maybe we should make this work, or maybe we should give him some more compensation, because it may be a better fit for us going down the road to be able to compete for a championship, that other team. So I think Landry Fields is going to be more than willing to have those conversations, because he's always talking about, hey, you can hit my line if you got something. So, and he's definitely picking up the phone right now, because this is going to be a critical offseason, going forward, because like we talking about the structure, right? It's Landry Fields, Kyle Korver, and Nick Wrestler. I don't know where Nick Wrestler sits, but I know he's in the equation. And we obviously know that with Tony Wrestler being in the fold, we know what he brings to the table as well. Like how much it gonna cost. I think that's kind of where he is at this moment. But it was really good to see JC out there just having fun and being into it. I know it can be hard on him sometimes or all the time for some people, feel like I'm really hard on JC, but as a human being, and he said himself, like you're human, like you have feelings, and to be coming into work every day for 3 years and saying, "Oh, am I going to be around?"
Right.
In February before the All-Star break, or I'm going to have to move to a new city and kind of put all those questions in place. So I'm really cool. It was really cool to see JC, and like you said, for these last 26 games, I want to continue. I want to see this JC for these last 26. T. I am all on board for that. Yeah. Now, speaking of being on board, T, how about this? The Hall of Fame class was announced, right? And there are a couple of names that popped out to me. It was Rondé Barber. As far as the players, Rondé Barber, Darrelle Revis, Joe Thomas, Demarcus Ware, and Zach Thomas finally gets in. Any of those names kind of stand out to you, T?
Defense. It is the first time that since the 1970 AFL NFL merger that you have seen this many players that there are slots. And also this is a large class because typically the class is around 7. That's the average. It's 5 if it's a very slow year, but this 9 is kind of unprecedented. But then to see more than half, because right now the Hall stands at about 60% offense and then 40% defense / special teams, and really it's about 39% defense, 1% special teams, to be honest. But anywho, you got these slots that you get, and like 5 of those slots essentially went to defensive players, and that's pretty much the max that you can even get. So really, really impressive. That is an awesome class. And boy, whoever's going to attend in Canton, that to me, that's going to be a serious treat. And I'm thinking about that because Demarcus Ware was on with our guys, Andy and Randy over at 92.9 this week. And man, it was so wonderful. He just, the way his mind thinks. And then also to hear Marcus Spears of ESPN speaking on DeMarcus this year, he was talking about the fact that, he was that guy who came from humble beginnings, starting at Troy State and being small for his position. But literally in that first week that they were together, he said in the Cowboys locker room, he said, I want to leave this game as being one of the all-time greats. I want to be a legend. Whew. Mission accomplished, man. Mission accomplished.
Speak it into existence because he's one of those guys. We talked about the transition from 4-3 to a 3-4, which was a big deal back in his day when he played. He was able to transition from DN to outside linebacker like it was nothing. So DeMarcus was a dude, and he went to go be a dude in Denver, and became another dude.
The dude. They don't win that Super Bowl without DeMarcus Ware.
They don't.
He won that Super Bowl for them. No question. So he was probably, of all of the guys that made it in, he was probably the one I was most excited about because I watched him, like many of us, toil in Dallas for years, wondering, are these guys ever going to give him the pieces for them to get back to the promised land and for him to get to the promised land? So when he parted ways and went to Denver, I was like, who could be mad? Like, who can be mad? He deserves to go and get a ring. And so many players actually try to do that towards the end of their career. And for him to actually not only have done it, but to have really been the catalyst for why they got back to the Super Bowl and won it that time, that's beast mode.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he was a guy that I'm very proud of, and along with Zach Thomas, and of course I got to give my guy a quick shout out to you.
Yes,
Darrelle Revis, Revis Island. Come on, was it any question that the man was going to get in that doggone Hall of Fame? Absolutely, just really cool stuff.
Right. And you know who else I like? The other, I believe, first-time balloter along with Darrelle Revis, Joe Thomas. You know why? Because just like we say on this show, hashtag defense matters, hashtag O-linemen matter too.
Amen today. It was no question, Joe. Joe and Darrelle. I think we talked about this when the candidates list came out. Joe and Darrelle were at the top. Yep, they're going in. All y'all other guys, y'all figure out those other spots.
Right. And Jarvis, before we move on, being HBCU grads, it gives us great pride as well, especially because I had an opportunity to do a profile on Ken Riley several years ago. And then I got a chance to talk to some of his teammates, some of his teammates during his years with the Bengals, if I'm not mistaken, as well as some people who were influenced by him when he was the AD over at FAMU. What an amazing man. What an amazing man. And just excited that he finally got his flowers. Hate that he got him posthumously, but really excited that finally he got the recognition that he so deserved, because of course we know he was one of those players who had to shift gears, shift to defense, and then shift to the secondary because of the time that he played balling, and then he absolutely made it work for him. So congrats to Ken Riley.
Also, and you talk about having an effect on people, right? Quinn Gray, former NFL quarterback, who's now the head coach of Albany State University, giving his former AD a quick shout out on social media this morning. So that's really, really cool to see. And it's definitely going to be something that we're going to keep an eye on. I can't wait for that ceremony. I want to hear some of those speeches, T.
Yes.
How about this? If you guys want to hear about winning some money, listen up. How about you go to FanDuel.com, because it is the #1 app in America. The sports book in America. It's the #1. And they're also our new sports betting partner. So how about this? They got some good stuff going on for you. You know the Super Bowl is coming up. So here's what they got. All right, all you got to do is download FanDuel right now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. What's that, Jarvis? You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. And the app is safe, it's secure, and it's super easy to use. And best of all, you're going to get your bread right then and there. As soon as the clock hits 000, it's going down in your account. All you got to do is check the app. So, quick reminder, all you got to do, download the app. And then here's the special thing. Go to FanDuel.com/locked-on, and you're going to get that no-sweat first bet. That's $3,000 if your first bet doesn't win. At FanDuel.com/locked-on, make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I want to say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen today. Why don't you make your second listen Locked On Sports today? They have all the national news and everything that you're absolutely looking for. As far as the take of the day, just like we do for the culture, you can check out Locked On Sports today to get all the national information that you absolutely need. And you can find it wherever you download this podcast. Now, I know you're probably looking and saying like, okay, where's Tenitra? She's not here with us right now, but I do have my guy, Brad Rowland, from Locked On Hawks, joining us today, obviously with the NBA trade deadline. Brad, I got to start off with this one. Saddiq Bey, what does he bring to the table, and what are the Hawks thinking when bringing a guy like this in?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Landry Fields talked to the media very late last night as we're recording this and talked a lot about depth, and that was the big thing for me. Saddiq Bey as a player is like a combo forward, pretty good shooter, a decent size, like does some stuff pretty well. He's not going to light the world on fire for you necessarily, but a guy who brings another sort of versatile, capable forward to the mix. And as you well know, the Hawks don't have a lot of depth this year. Whenever guys have gone down, they've kind of fallen off a cliff. And I think that was the biggest thing here, is that also he's also pretty cheap, which is probably part of the calculus as well. They avoid the luxury tax, but the big thing on the court is just bringing in another guy who they can sort of trust to be out there and plug some holes and really help the depth.
And that was one of the things that I've been kind of rumbling through in my mind, and I was just like, okay, when you going into the trade deadline, I was thinking Tenitra and I have talked about on the show at nauseum about like what the Hawks should do going into this thing, right? Should they stand pat? Should they try to make a move and go ahead and try to be better and compete this year, and then figure out in the summer? So and I think that that seems like what Landry Fields' line of thinking was. Okay, I'm not going to trade any of my big pieces because we know John Collins has been rumored to be leaving this team for the past 10 years now. So I think that when you think about, this line of thinking, do you feel like John Collins will finally stick around at going forward or let me say this. Do you think he'll be able to finish out his contract as an Atlanta Hawk?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think that honestly, I've always been a big fan of John's. I think he is very, very useful and very good and a very sort of versatile. He's gotten a lot better in a lot of different ways. I think it's been overlooked nationally, just to say all that. They do value him. Like they definitely wanted to keep him around at a certain price. Like I think they would have moved him. Obviously, he has been very available, as we all know, but they also refuse to give him away. They have a price. Nobody's meeting it. And I think that's because they know John is a good player. And just because of all of that, especially if they win down the stretch this season, that would probably help things as well. But I wouldn't go quite as far as to finish the contract. That's a long time in the future.
Absolutely. And the one thing that I thought was pretty interesting last night in watching the game, and, I think Lauren Jabbar had interviewed John Collins and she kind of hinted around the trade deadline and him kind of playing a little differently last night. I know I saw a difference in his play last night. Like, because I know for me, like John Collins has always been willing to talk. If you put a microphone in front of his face, he's been willing to answer those questions that are quote unquote looked at as tough. So, and I appreciate him for that. But when you see the type of play that he had last night on the court, like, is it fair to want to see that on a consistent basis, even with all the rumors flying around?
Yeah, I think it's reasonable, and like I think last night was interesting. Like the timing was funny because he also got set up with a few like his dunks get a lot of attention. That's kind of the big thing with John, kind of always has been. And I think he had 4 dunks last night. He was very active. I think he's played hard this year. Like Nate got a question about that after the game last night, kind of through what you're asking me about, and he was kind of like, look, he plays hard all the time. Like they were kind of downplaying it. And I get it. And I think consistency-wise, he's not been quite as good this year on offense in particular. Defensively, he's been, I think, the best he's ever been this year, to be honest.
Indeed, yes.
But I think it's fair. And also, I want to stress always, like, these guys are human. And I think it's not fun to be in rumors for basically 3 straight seasons. And he's played hard, and he got a lot of praise from Landry and Nate and the team last night for being a pro this whole time. But I'm sure, it's not the easiest thing in the world. So maybe this will be a weight off his shoulders. He can kind of be free. Like, all right, at least I got 6 more months in Atlanta. I know what's going on. And I can just kind of go out there and just play. And that's something he said, I think, in that interview you're talking about with Lauren. Just go out there and play and be free of that. So maybe that's help him. Maybe that will help him between that and maybe some jump shooting regression in a positive way. I think he'll be better in the second half of the season.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking forward to him to bringing that consistency because we all know the capabilities that he has. I'm just the type of guy I want to see it more often. And I don't think that's too much to ask when you talk about John. Now, as far as we haven't got a chance to talk about the whole Nick Ressler piece coming into play, Landry Fields and the Kyle Korver organizational structure right now. Like, I don't know where Nick Ressler sits, and you may be able to give me some insight on that, but I want to kind of ask you about this new structure from the front office standpoint, and how do you feel like these guys are going to try to make? Obviously, they want to be able to put a stamp and say, "Hey," and prove that, "Hey, we belong here." But how do you feel that they can do that?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because the Hawks were already kind of formed as a team before this changeover. Not that they can't make changes, but more than a lot of teams really around the league, the Hawks have this extended core that's under contract, and like you kind of have to make trades to change this roster. Like there's not a whole lot of turnover happening in terms of just contracts ending or whatever, and also taking over midseason is very strange. Like, especially for a team that's pretty decent and where the Hawks have been, you don't often see a front office change in December. That's a very strange thing. And it kind of adds another layer of it that you kind of mentioned it, but this is a first-time group. Landry Fields has been an assistant GM in the past, but not a lead decision maker. Kyle Korver is pretty fresh off the court. He's only been off the court for a few years. The Nick Ressler piece is interesting too, but I think going into the summer is where I kind of have been circling, like, their opportunity to make some more sweeping changes if they want to do that. I think what they did at the deadline was essentially not make a big decision, which is not a bad thing, but they added to the team and they gave up a lot of second round picks, but they didn't make a huge affirmative move one way or the other. They could have torn down, they could have built up, and they kind of just did a little bit on the margins. And that was a safe approach, which I'm okay with. I get all that, but I think that we'll see more this summer in particular, and then going beyond that, like what they actually are about. Because I had a good read on Travis Schlenk, and I've admitted on my podcast, like I don't have a read on Landry and Kyle and that's not a bad thing, but they just haven't had the transaction cycles to where you can learn more information and talk to these guys. So it's a big question mark for me, but they certainly will have more of an opportunity when it comes to this summer.
Yeah, I think that the read that you talk about on Travis, I feel like I had a pretty decent read on him as well, just from I like the moves that he's made. I don't think he gets a lot of credit. A lot of people discredit him when it comes to what he was able to accomplish as the lead decision maker for this team, and I think he did an overall pretty solid job. Now, granted, did he pay a couple of people that he probably shouldn't have, maybe, or that's up for discussion. But I think overall he did a pretty pretty bang up job. Now, as far as go back to the depth piece that you talked about earlier, and like one of the things that I cringe sometimes that I see in games when Nate McMillan brings Bo in. I call him Bogdanovich. When he brings Bo in and he plays at that three slot, and I think that when that substitution, when DeAndre Hunter comes out of the game, I think there was just a pretty big drop off from a defensive standpoint, or even bringing AJ Griffin into that piece, to the fold. Where do you see AJ Griffin falling now that you got a guy like Saddiq Bey who can come in at the 3? Do you see AJ kind of moving towards playing that 2 guard position, or how do you think that plays out with Nate?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's one of the things that I'm looking for in the first couple of weeks when Saddiq comes in. Is like how this all breaks down. I think AJ has pretty firmly entrenched as a rotation piece for this team. Like obviously the future is super bright with AJ. I think everybody knows that. Yes. But I think that he has been the guy that basically since he joined the rotation early in the season, he's never come out. Like he's always been out there for a limited, sometimes limited time, but he's kind of carved out that role, and he's got the physical strength to play the 3. He can play the 2. He's played a little bit of 2. And one of the points about Saddiq Bey is that, like you said, the Hawks don't really have a traditional 3 other than Hunter on this roster that's been playing. Bogey and Griffin are probably a little bit more on the 2 side. AJ, I think in the future will kind of play up more at the 3. But Bey, they talked about this kind of, I think, 4 or 5 times last night. Bey, they see it as a 3-4. So like he's going to play a little bit of 3. He'll play a little bit of 4. He's a little bit bigger, a little bit stockier than Bogey. And I think that honestly, this is unfortunate, but the guy I'd be worried about losing playing time is Jalen Johnson. And I think that's the thing. Like I'm not saying that's right, but if you're Jalen Johnson right now, I think there's some pressure on you to maybe keep your spot, because the Hawks only have 10 guys. They don't have they don't have too many guys. I saw some of that last night. That's not really going to be a thing. But if everybody's healthy, I could see Nate leaning on Saddiq Bey more as the backup 4 sometimes, and that might cut into Jalen's time. But I think AJ, given his future, given the way he's played and the shooting in particular, where they still need that shooting pretty badly, I think he's going to play every night, whether it's a 2 or the 3. But Jalen's the guy that I'm a little bit concerned that he might start playing a little bit less.
Yeah, and when you think about that uncertainty that Jalen Johnson displays when it comes to shooting the 3, Saddiq Bey don't have any issues whatsoever putting it up from behind the arc. Yeah. So I think there may be something. I think you're onto something when it comes to Jalen Johnson not getting as much playing time. Now, last one before we get out here, I gotta ask this one, man. Like, this is the question that I don't want to ask, but I feel like I have to. Like, are we gonna be talking about Trae Young being disgruntled and wanting to get a trade in the next couple of seasons, Brad? Please answer this correctly.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there obviously was a little bit of noise a few weeks ago. Some of the rumblings that are out there. And look, anytime a team is not winning, the stuff just comes out. It is what it is. Guys are frustrated, and the Hawks are underachieving this year. At least as we speak right now, they're 500. That wasn't anybody's plan for this season, especially after the Murray trade. Anytime you're not winning, guys are not thrilled. And whether it's Trae or whether it's other guys, like just the vibe wasn't great, the front office changeover, all that stuff. And that leads to leaks, that leads to media stuff. And I get all that. I've always thought basically the only way Trae's leaving is if Trae wants to leave and makes it very, very clear that he wants to leave. I can't see the Hawks proactively trading Trae Young. I know that was kind of out there too. I can't see that really happening. But could it be possible in 2 years if the Hawks are still underachieving in Trae's mind that he like starts looking around like, all right, what about somewhere else? In the NBA, that happens. Like it's not I know it's sort of taboo to talk about it because like just the way you asked the question is kind of the same way.
Like, won't talk about it.
Nobody wants it to happen. I'm not rooting for that. It is what it is. But like if you look at the track record in the NBA, KD just got traded the other day. Like these guys at the highest levels, if they're not happy, they can get out if they want to get out. And I'm not saying Trae's going to want to, but if he ever says, all right, it's time, he's a clutch client. That wouldn't probably hurt him. They can probably
they can make it happen.
Right. They've got guys, they've made it happen before. So
yes.
I think if you're the Hawks, there's a little bit of internal pressure just to be honestly, I think they know that they have to win or Trae in a couple years. I'm not saying right now, but a couple years might be like, all right, guys, it's time to win. Like, and that's one of the things about the run to the conference finals is that it might have spoiled everybody a little bit. And like, all right, man, we already did this. And now it's like, we want to get back there. And if anytime you're not back there, maybe the frustration is even a little bit more. If it had been more incremental, maybe it's a little bit easier, but yeah, I could certainly see it in a couple years if the Hawks aren't winning, but if they win, I think he'll be here long-term and probably be happier and everybody's vibes will be better.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you think about what you're saying is just so true. Because there are even some rumblings about Luca probably potentially won out. They don't get it right in Dallas. So hey, and that was the guy he was traded for. So
Very, yeah, it's very similar across the board there.
absolutely. So we already know what kind of juice the NBA players got in today's game. Brad, man, I really appreciate your time today, man. Thanks for joining us, and please don't let this be the last time.
I'm happy to come on anytime you need me or want me or don't even want me, but just need somebody to come on and fill in. I'm happy to do whatever you need. Thanks, man.
Absolutely. He is Brad T. Rowland of Locked on Hawks. We're coming up next, guys. It is For the Culture, and we're talking about wings, and it's going down. But first, I got to tell you guys about Built Bar. You're looking for a delicious treat, but don't want all the fat and the calories, then you got to try a Built Bar. How about this? I'm actually munching on a churro Built Bar right now. It is absolutely amazing because, when you're in a rush, I know a lot of times you get bogged down with work and tea. You understand this too. You got a lot going on and you just need a really quick snack. How about you go to built.com because it is the best way to get your hands on some good nutritional value stuff. Now, here's a cool thing. If you're old school, kind of like me, and you want to go to the brick and mortar and go pick you up a Built Bar, you can do that right now. All you got to do is go to Sam's Club and you can grab a 13 bar box with our hit flavors. Brownie batter, which is amazing, by the way, and churro is what I'm eating on right now. That's why all the spit is coming out of my mouth because it is so delicious. I'm talking about real 100% chocolate, real chocolate. And also, what you need to do, and I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros and only 17 grams of protein. Now, all you got to do is, you want to go to built.com, you can still go there. However, make sure you go check out Sam's Club and Walmart to pick up your Built bars in person. Now, T, this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, and the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down to this show. Today is no different. How about this, T? Now, we know we're getting ramped up for the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about our favorite Super Bowl dishes in just a second, but I got to get this story out, right? There's a lady who's been working in the Chicago school district for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
It's an older lady. She just got arrested for stealing $1.5 million worth of chicken wings. T, like, what type of Super Bowl party was she trying to throw here?
Oh, wow. There must be a serious black market for chicken wings.
That's what I'm saying.
Heading
Like,
into
what did
Super
she
Bowl
say?
Sunday.
I got 25 for the 15. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on?
That is crazy. I mean, I guess people really must like wings like that. I don't like wings. So to me, that's so acid. Like, it's useless.
Yes.
A wing is a useless thing to me.
Oh my! Wait a minute.
What a useless piece of food.
Oh my gosh! What is going on here? Like,
no, it's just useless. The only way a chicken wing even exists in my world, and you can say what you want to say, you better not call it a nugget, but it's that boneless wing at Pizza Hut. That's it.
No.
That's it.
At Pizza
I don't
Hut?
understand why we're having a conversation about this.
Boneless.
That's it.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
A drumette, yes.
It is
a drumette, yes.
Oh gosh.
But
all right, okay. Well,
why
at least
am I fighting for meat? Why am I fighting for meat that hard? Like, why?
What?
It's a fail.
I love drumettes. I'm with you on. I'm with you on that. Drumettes. I'm all on that. Like, I don't understand like the flats. Like, I don't understand like why people are so in love with flats. Like, I literally got to sex up the wing in order to get all the meat out. Like, literally. Like, if I let you dive into what that is, and not you necessarily, but all the listeners and viewers right there, I let y'all dive into what that actually means. But $1.5 million worth of wings. Like, what did she do with the wings? That's what I want to know. I think that's what that investigative reporter didn't do their job. T. They didn't do their job.
Like, and that's what I was going to say. How did she get them? Like, some heads need to roll, because for you to smuggle 1.5 million wings. I mean, what is she, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, you know how like, I don't know if it was like Shawshank Redemption or there have been movies where people allegedly take a spoon and kind of dig their way out of prison. Yeah. I mean, did she do something like that where she like, a 20 spot here, a 20
But
spot there every day. Like
that's a lot of wings. We're talking about
I know.
$1.5 million worth
I
of
know.
wings. Like, that's a lot of wings. Like, man, like, I hope she got a lot of grandkids and they are fully fed and they'll be fed for quite some time in a big
Or I hope
old
she
freezer.
ships some of her money offshore.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Because it'll be a long time before she sees a real wing, some money, or anything.
Yeah, that's truly unfortunate because,
Hopeless.
$1.5 million worth go to waste. Yeah. All right. Whew.
Wings.
T,
Wings.
gotta ask you this. I know the answer is not wings, but what is your go-to Super Bowl dish? It's going down Sunday. What's your go-to? What do you have to have in order to watch the game on Sunday?
Well, this is going to be a different Sunday. So, because I really want to fly solo. Like, I'm not going to any parties because this game to me is going to be so exciting.
You want to be
And
locked in?
I just want to be locked in. So, it's not even about the food this time. However, I really do love when I can get some good guacamole, like some good guac on the little Tostitos chip.
Ah, yes.
I love that. Or some all of the like finger food. So, like, the pig in the blanket thingy and the little meatballs, little barbecue meatballs, all that, all the little finger foods until you just get full.
Yeah, I gotta have some Rotel dip, T. Like all of what you just said.
Okay.
And of course, I gotta have my wings and the Rotel dip is going down. Gotta have it. Wait.
No. I like when they do I prefer the chicken tenders, like the Publix chicken tenders.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I respect that.
Yeah.
I can respect that one.
I can't do. I gotta be able to actually have a healthy portion of whatever I'm eating. Yeah.
Okay.
So I can't do that fight.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't fight you.
I mean, now you're gonna pay for it later. I know. I've had Rotel dip, and the bathroom don't like me for that. Yeah. So, but
okay.
you know what I'm saying. But yeah, I'm with you on that. The chicken tenders and the buffalo chicken dip. Got to do that one now. People, we want to thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, make Locked On Sports Today your second listen of the day. You can find it wherever you find this podcast. And last but not least, folks, if you don't do anything else, make sure you share love, show love, and absolutely spread love over the weekend.
Fly, Eagles, fly.